Somewhere along the way, we absorbed an idea that sounds noble, empowering, even heroic. If you just work harder, things will get better. It's everywhere. In self-help books, productivity videos, startup culture, motivational quotes. Grind now, rest later. Sleep is for the weak. Outwork everyone. And on the surface, it feels true, because hard work does matter. There are times when effort makes the difference between stuck and stable, between almost and done. But here's the part no one likes to say out loud. Working harder doesn't always solve the problem. In fact, it can make things worse. If the system you're in is broken, more effort doesn't fix it. If the strategy is unclear, more effort just deepens the confusion. If you're already depleted, more effort burns what little energy you have left. But the message is so deeply baked into us, we start to believe it as a personal truth. I'm not where I want to be because I'm not working hard enough. So we push, and push, and push, until the pushing becomes our entire identity. And here's the danger. Once you tie your worth to your hustle, you stop questioning the system you're in. You stop asking if the work is leading somewhere. You stop noticing if it's even sustainable. You stop checking in with what you actually want, because you're too busy proving you can handle it. You start chasing productivity like it's a moral good. Like exhaustion means integrity. Like burnout means you care. But that's not resilience. That's collapse in slow motion. The truth? You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to question whether more effort is the answer. You're allowed to ask what kind of life this constant grind is building, and whether you even want it.
It's easy to confuse motion with progress. We fill our calendars. We write longer to-do lists. We stay up late, start early, answer messages at red lights, eat while working, work while thinking about work. And at the end of the week, we're tired, but weirdly unsatisfied. That's because productivity, by itself, means nothing. It's just activity. It's only valuable if it's pointed somewhere. Without direction, being productive is like running on a treadmill. Tons of effort, zero ground covered. But in hustle culture, we've been taught that busy equals valuable. We glorify the full schedule, the always-on brain, the person who never stops. It makes us feel in control, like at least we're doing something, even if we don't know why. This is where people get stuck, not because they're lazy, but because they're constantly working without a clear path. They chase momentum instead of strategy. They take every job, every task, every request, every opportunity, because slowing down to think feels risky. Because if you pause, it might look like you don't care enough. But the truth is, undirected effort is one of the most expensive things you can pour your time into. It drains you, it erodes your clarity, and it creates this false sense of, I'm doing everything I can, when in reality, you're doing everything but getting where you need to go. Being busy is easy. Being intentional is harder, but far more effective. You don't need to hustle more. You need to know what the hell you're hustling toward. You need to know what actually moves the needle, and what just keeps your hands busy so you don't feel lost. It's not about how much you do. It's about whether the doing is getting you anywhere worth going.
Hustle sounds noble, like grit, like ambition, like the opposite of giving up. But behind the polished productivity posts and rise and grind slogans, hustle often comes with a quiet cost, one most people don't see until they're already paying it. It starts small: skipped meals, shorter sleep, pushing past exhaustion. You tell yourself it's just a phase, just until the next project is done, just until things stabilize. But just until never comes. And the longer you stay in hustle mode, the more invisible damage starts to build. The first thing to go is your clarity. You're doing so much, you stop thinking. You're responding, reacting, spinning, but you lose sight of why you started. You forget what you're actually working toward. Then your body starts talking through headaches, tension, digestive issues, insomnia. But you don't listen because listening would slow you down, and slowing down feels like failure. Emotionally, you begin to disconnect. You get numb. You stop celebrating wins. You stop feeling joy from progress. Every task feels like a weight, not a step. And then there's the money. Constant hustle leads to poor decisions. Spending impulsively because you're too tired to cook. Avoiding financial planning because your brain is fried. Taking any job that pays because you don't have energy to choose strategically. Delaying rest. Even when rest would prevent bigger financial crashes later, you think working more will save you. But in reality, it erodes the very resources you need to make good financial choices. Energy, attention, self-control. Eventually, the hustle turns into survival. You're no longer building anything. You're just trying not to collapse. That's not ambition. That's burnout dressed up as discipline. Real growth doesn't demand you destroy yourself to get ahead. It requires that you protect the part of you that makes good decisions. And that part can't survive under constant pressure. One of the most persistent financial myths is that if you just work more hours, you'll eventually earn more money. It feels logical. Time, our effort, income, right? Except it's not true. At least not for long. And especially not if you're underpaid, overbooked, or stuck in a model that rewards quantity over value. Let's break it down. Say you work a job that pays hourly, maybe freelance, maybe shift-based. You take more hours. You say yes to everything. You double your output. At first you make more. Then the cracks show. You hit a ceiling. There's only so much time you can sell. You burn out. Your energy drops. Your focus suffers. Your quality slips. Suddenly, your more becomes less effective. Clients notice. Employers notice. But worst of all, you notice. You're more tired and somehow still stuck in the same income bracket. And if your rates are too low, your time isn't leveraged, it's being drained. This happens to freelancers, creatives, service workers, even corporate employees. They think taking on just one more thing will solve the financial gap. But all it does is compress their capacity until they're grinding twice as hard for the same results. The real leverage doesn't come from more hours. It comes from clarity, positioning, and pricing. Clarity about what actually makes you money. Positioning that helps you charge more for the same effort. Boundaries that protect your time so your energy can stay sharp. More hours is a race you can't win, because you're betting on a resource you can't grow. Time. But value, skill, strategy, those are scalable. You don't need to work 14-hour days to move forward. You need to stop equating effort with income and start identifying what actually drives results. Hard work isn't bad, but when it's blind, it becomes wasteful. And you can't afford to waste yourself in the name of earning more. If hustling harder isn't the answer, then what is? It's not about giving up. It's not about doing nothing. It's about shifting your focus from constant output to consistent direction. Because real, long-term progress doesn't come from running at full speed until you collapse. It comes from building a rhythm you can keep, something that works even on your off days, something that holds when motivation drops. Sustainable progress is boring, and that's why so many people ignore it. It looks like checking your finances for 10 minutes every Sunday, not staying up until 2 a.m. fixing everything in one shot. It looks like gradually increasing your rates over 6 months, not trying to triple your income overnight. It looks like learning to say no to extra work, even when it feels like you should say yes. It's not sexy, but it's solid. This kind of progress respects your energy. It builds in margin, it allows for fluctuation, and it keeps your nervous system intact, which matters more than any spreadsheet. Because when you're always sprinting, you miss signals, you ignore fatigue, you override stress, and that leads to crashes. Financial, emotional, physical. But when your progress is paced, you stay sensitive to what's working and what isn't. You can actually hear yourself think. You make fewer panic decisions. You course correct faster. The culture wants speed. The algorithm wants speed. But your life needs stability. And stability doesn't mean stillness. It means you can keep going without falling apart. That's real momentum. Not dramatic effort, just steady presence. Not more work, just smarter use of what you already have. You don't have to prove anything by pushing yourself to the edge. You're allowed to build slowly and arrive strong. One of the deepest traps of hustle culture is the belief that rest is something you earn, that you can't slow down until you've reached a certain goal. That breaks our rewards for productivity, not a basic need. So we tell ourselves things like, I'll rest once I hit this number. I'll take a break after this launch. I'll breathe once things calm down. But they never really do. There's always another task, another emergency, another reason to keep going just a little bit longer. And slowly rest becomes this distant luxury instead of a foundation. But here's the truth. You don't need to earn rest. You need rest to think clearly, to recover, to create, to decide, to even want things. When you run on empty, you don't make better financial decisions. You make desperate ones. You say yes when you mean no. You take underpaid work because you're too tired to negotiate. You buy comfort instead of building structure because your brain is in survival mode. Rest isn't laziness. It's maintenance. It's where strategy comes from. It's where your long-term thinking lives. It's how you reconnect with your actual goals, not just the noise around you. And the idea that you have to deserve it, that's part of what keeps people trapped in debt, trapped in burnout, trapped in shame for not doing enough. Even when they're already doing too much, you don't need another 10-hour sprint. You need space to feel like a person again. Financial progress doesn't mean earning your way into peace. It means learning to build peace while you earn. Not later, not after, now. You are allowed to rest. Not when it's all done, but as part of doing it well. Because you can't build a better life from depletion. You build it from clarity. And clarity begins when you're rested enough to see straight. If this video made something click for you, consider subscribing. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one, and leave a comment. Even just a thanks or your own story. I read everything.